it's just, this is like, and I don't want to get political, but like the current narrative at the moment, this is why it's so frustrating, because undiagnosed ADHD is not only a shame, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. And when we're talking
Mm.
about the mental health and how it affects people and their lives, like this is what we're playing with, people's lives here. And for people just to be like, oh God, it's overdiagnosed, or, "Oh, everyone has ADHD." Like, no, like it's disrespectful and it's really ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Wes.
Yeah.
Something came out and said about overdiagnosis of like mental health issues and autism and ADHD, and it was really disheartening that somebody in a position that can make change happen, positive change happen, has just been so dismissive. When
But so public as well, because, like, what's he's just planted a
yes,
seed in a load of
yeah,
people's head now. So, like, "Oh, yeah, I told you it's overdiagnosed," or people that may not even have thought about it and now gonna think, "Oh, must be overdiagnosed." So you're gonna get so many people who are actually really struggling, who will either be afraid to speak up now, or they will do, and they could be potentially dismissed, which, by the way, was one of the barriers of me getting diagnosed, because I was seeing it back then, and it's gonna be 10 times worse now.
yeah, absolutely, because it just sets a precedent then, because then people will go into the GPs and asking for a diagnosis and then get knocked back because now there's this opinion that, it's not really a problem when it is, and the impacts that it has on, and it's a growing number and percentage of people that are neurodiverse and need more support. So the fact that they've been so dismissive feels like a step back. I know they, like, again, sorry, the name escapes me, but that person that said that then wrote an article that I read, and the most worrying thing for me was the fact that they said that the government just couldn't comprehend and didn't understand why there was suddenly this influx of people looking for diagnosis. And I don't know about you, but to me it was obvious because obviously
Yeah.
people are more open about it now. Times are changing. People are sharing on social media as well. Obviously, like both of us are on social media talking about it. So the fact that the government aren't aware of like why there's suddenly more awareness of it and why more people are being diagnosed. Like that doesn't put faith in, I really didn't put my faith in the government from that point of view. How did that make you feel?
I was like, do you know what? I seen it on the way back from London, and I had the best day with like some members of the ADHD community, and I was felt so inspired and heard some incredible stories, and also like some sad stories, of course, from other people who've gone undiagnosed. So I heard it off the back of that, and I was just like, it was just a mixture of feelings. But to be honest, I just thought I was angry, and I just thought, this is
Mm,
so dangerous because, first of all, why do they need to come out and say this right now and use loaded wording like overdiagnosed? They could have said they looking into, I don't know, more people having ADHD. Do you know what I mean? Like validating it in some way, but saying an overdiagnosis definitely implies that, it's not, it's been
people are being diagnosed who haven't
correct,
got
and
it,
then
which
yeah,
is not the
exactly
case,
that,
is it?
exactly. So, yeah, I was really annoyed really, because I'd also spoken about my previous history with pre-diagnosed ADHD, and then like I said to you before, like my mental health was so, so bad. I'm lucky to be here. So, and I know I'm not the only one. Do you know what I mean? There is a large portion of people with ADHD who also suffer, and yeah, it's just so dangerous. I just don't get it. Really irresponsible the way they've done it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're at a point as well now where there's so much work that can be done. Like we're so far away from getting where we need to as a country, I think, in terms of the diagnosis and even just understanding the condition fully. I think part of the problem, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not, but I think part of the problem is that you've got a government in power that's in there for 4 years, but it's fairly short term.
Mm.
Whereas with ADHD, it's a lifelong condition that we are battling with all the times. For me, like the sort of remedy to it is simple. It's to fund more early diagnosis, create more awareness in schools to support parents.
Mhm.
If there's signs that somebody could potentially have ADHD, suggest that and point them in the right direction. They might have it, they might not, but if you go for a diagnosis, that's when you get your answer. So for me, the more funding that's then put into that side and ensuring diagnosis is provided earlier, then it's going to relieve a lot of the strain on, like the NHS for like mental health, because like we've discussed, there's so much mental health and mental health issues that come from late diagnosis and not understanding why. You find it easy to get addicted, and it's such a damaging cycle, then that affects you long term as well.
Yeah, and not just mental health, but in prisons as well. Like, there's a big portion of
Mm.
people who have committed crimes and things like that, and, and like, again, we're not saying it's an excuse because I know there's some people out there who will jump to that, but, no, it is a huge catalyst. If you're highly impulsive, I know you've got mental health issues and stuff, and, Dr. Phil has done a lot of work on this issue, and it's really, really interesting. I think compulsory screening in schools, like primary schools, is definitely the way they should do it for both for all neurodivergent. So I think at the end of the day, we all have neurotypes, neurotypical, neurodivergent, and it's so helpful to learn that at the beginning of school rather than the end when you might have to go back to school like I'm doing. But yeah, I think that would be an incredible way to move forward. And, maybe because I know they said a massive thing about they've spent so many billion on this ADHD thing. It doesn't have to be that way if they screened early. You don't have to book really expensive appointments just to have an assessment done, right? You know? I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I think there's definitely
But
preventative ways.
yeah, definitely. And speaking of experts, actually, I saw that you recently had a conversation with Dr. Phil
Yeah.
Anderton, who's a founder of ADHD 360, obviously based in Lincoln, where I live. I'd love to know, when you had a chat with him, like what insights did you get into the work that he's doing and how he's pushing for change?
So I actually attended a book launch. He's brought a book out with John Reynolds, Natasha Davies, and Francesca James. And it also features a lot of other people who have ADHD and their success stories. Yeah, he's really championing like the positives of ADHD and just trying to show people you can be successful, which I love. I love because that's kind of my why now as well. But the work he does is incredible. He's got his own Clinic 360, which obviously helps a lot of people. And I've got to say, the podcast that I was on was with John Reynolds as well. And the two of them have just created the most, I want to say, safe space. In fact, what I said to him on that day, to both of them, I just like, thank you for making me feel so safe to be myself. And that's what that community feels like. And they're doing a really, really good job of bringing everyone together at the moment. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. But yeah, he's amazing. John as well, both really, really incredible pioneers, I think, at the moment.
And it's so important that we have, people in a position of like Dr. Phil and John as well, pushing for that change, and just spreading awareness, because I think having more conversations, and the book is going to be really powerful as well, because I think the biggest thing as well, and certainly that I've found from doing the podcast, is that sharing stories and sharing experiences of how ADHD shows up, like even it could even just help one person, or it could help loads of people just by, you know if some people are maybe unsure that they've got ADHD. Like, I've had a message today of somebody who thinks they've got ADHD but isn't sure where to go, and it's because they've found things that are relatable, because I've been sharing my story and other people's stories, and I think there's so much power in shared experience, especially within ADHD as well.
Yeah,
Is
community is so important.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was going to be my next question to you, actually, because obviously, um, you post on social media about ADHD and what it's like, and tips and things like that. How have you found the ADHD community to be, and how has it shaped the content that you create?
Incredible. Honestly, I feel so lucky to have been a part of a couple of things lately where, it's just a beautiful sense of belonging and yeah, community. And like I say, like the other day when I recorded with John and Phil, like it was just, this is gonna sound really corny, but it was just like, yeah, a real sense of belonging and real and really lovely. And I think it's so important because we get each other. We just get each other. Do you know? And
Mhm.
I do feel like
Yeah.
we gravitate towards each other a little bit. And also, what I hear a lot of in my DMs from people, and it's really sad, and I hope this does change, but a lot of people don't feel like they can talk to their family or perhaps their close friends. And I'm not saying because their family, you know, mean or anything like that. It might just be something within them where they don't feel that they get it, and maybe that's from a lifetime of feeling misunderstood. There's a lot of things that it could be, but I find that is a common thing. So finding kind of your crew, or your people, I think is so, so, so important, and especially if you're at the beginning of your journey as well and you're unsure, speaking to someone who gets it and isn't going to go, oh, not you as well, like, oh yeah, everyone's got ADHD these days. Like, someone who's actually going to try and
Yeah.
work with you, I think it's so important.
And you mentioned a really valid point there as well about having or feeling that you can't really discuss it with family members, or because it's such a hard thing, and it's something that, like, I've found with my dad, who I believe is neurotypical, and he, it's one of those situations where it wasn't around, or the awareness wasn't there when he was younger, so he doesn't really understand.
Mm.
There was a really nice moment actually a few months ago when, because I didn't tell him about the podcast that I was doing. He lives in Skegness, and we don't see each other an awful lot. And to be honest, we mainly just talk football. But it was a really nice moment where he'd obviously seen something I'd done. I think because, and I'm still learning social media here, so yeah, don't judge me too much on this. But I shared something on Instagram and on my story, and it went to my Facebook story, and I didn't realize it was going to. And I think he saw that, and he's like, "Oh,
Good.
what's this ADHD thing?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I've started a podcast because I've got ADHD. I'm going through the diagnosis at the moment." And he's like, "How did you know?" And so obviously I told him, and he just put, like, "So proud of you, son." And I was like, for me, that was a really, a really, sorry. Okay, I'm gonna have to pause.
Oh,
But
I know, I love
oh my God,
that. So he should be proud of you. It takes balls it really does take balls to not only go for the diagnosis, but to put yourself out there and do this incredible podcast. This is good. That's going to help so many people, and put all that hard work in. And it's that I can imagine he's incredibly proud of you. You should be really proud of yourself as well. It's
thanks. I really
inspiring.
appreciate that. Anyway, right, back to the recording mode. But yeah, like, so from my own experiences and speaking to other people as well, I know it's like such a hard conversation sometimes for people to have, and some people's family gets it, other people's don't, but then accepts
Mm.
it as well, and so it's a real, it's a really difficult kind of thing to kind of deal with. So obviously, with you producing social media content around ADHD and being part of the ADHD community now, and seeing that grow, what is the biggest misconception of ADHD you found, like either in real life or on social media?
Well, I think we've touched on this one already, that it's overdiagnosed. Also, I don't know if it's a misconception, but like, I don't think people fully understand it. And I include myself in that. Before I was diagnosed, I hadn't fully grasped it. It took me to actually go through the whole process to actually realize the extent of it. And I think people need to remember that. Like, they're not experts. They don't fully understand the whole extent of ADHD. Not all people, but the eye rollers. So yeah, I think the misconception is obviously, well, two stigmas now. One, that it's overdiagnosed, and the other one is that it's just the hyperactive, naughty kid at school, because it goes a hell of a lot deeper than that. And also, actually,
Yeah, absolutely.
that ADHD people can't be successful, because my God, we can. Like, there's such a high percentage of entrepreneurs who are all ADHD. If anything, I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, ADHD could definitely be an asset to you.
Yeah, certainly, and there was a yeah, sorry, there was a statistic that I read the other day that, I think it was approximately 25% of entrepreneurs in the UK are disabled or neurodiverse. So it just shows that, and that's a significant percentage compared to the percentage of people in the UK that are obviously neurodiverse or disabled.
We're bigger risk takers, we're creative, we can hyper focus. I think with another misconception, actually, I think people think we struggle with motivation, but it's not that we struggle with motivation. We need meaning to get motivated. Soon as, like, you put meaning like we get the meaning, you can't stop us from being being more motivated. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. I think the more awareness that we keep creating and sharing, hopefully one day we'll get to a place where people are more accepting and more understanding and less judgmental.
I mentioned benefits to having ADHD. How does ADHD fuel your creativity when it comes to creating content and the work you do?
Since I have started creating content around ADHD, it's like a drive I've never felt before, and it's because of the meaning. I feel it's a purpose, and it feels purposeful, and I know it's helping people because I speak to people in my DMs all the time. So that's definitely what motivates me. And don't get me wrong, like in other sense, like maybe like some uni work and stuff, it can be incredibly difficult still. But when you've got that one thing that you know gives you your purpose, I think ADHD people can be unstoppable.
I think that's a really good note to end on, that if you find your purpose, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing your story and
Thank you
experiences.
for having me.
It's been really inspiring. Lou, before you go, what have you got coming up next year in 2026?
I've just created a new community space called ADHD Interrupted, which is just an online space where people can share, connect, and also arrange body jumping sessions, pair up with accountability buddies, just learn more. I'll put some resources in there as well. And we've got some in person events and things coming up. Actually, not to tread on your toes, but a podcast as well. But I'm sure we can support each other. But yeah, lots of things. That is called ADHD Interrupted. So give it a little look on Instagram if you're on there.
Absolutely, and I'll be sure to check it out. It sounds amazing, and I think creating a community, especially with ADHD, I know we've already touched on it today, but the power of community and sharing those experiences is amazing. So I'm super excited for that for you, and
Mhm.
yeah, you'll have to let me know when it goes live.
Thank you so much.
But thank you for your time today, Lou, and appreciate everything you shared
Oh,
with us today, being so open and honest. There's so much to take away from this conversation. So thank you so much.
thank you so much for having me. Honestly, you made me feel so welcome and so safe, and I really appreciate that.